Right, okay, another Ruben presser. Some more words from the main man, and I feel like after the Ipswich game, there's like yesterday was like a little bit of a lull. People were a little bit confused as to what to make of the Ipswich game. Only one game, only one team, only one starting lineup selected. And everything was a little bit up in the air, and it still is a little bit up in the air, of course. But I feel like with another Ruben Amorim press conference in the books, I think things just slightly starting to peel back the layers slightly. So I'm just going to go through the actual press conference, a few points that I found really interesting. Just listening in general is just such a refreshing, such a pleasurable experience, even after the 1-1 draw with Ipswich. I feel like a lot of the things that Amorim says are what a lot of just kind of sensible fans are also thinking. And one of the biggest frustrations I feel like over the years with Manchester United fans is where a lot of the kind of obvious things that the fan base wanted, or whether that be a style of play or a player profile or the manager to protect or to go at the players. You know, there's so many nuances and so many little things, and that a lot of the communication coming from Manchester United managers over the last decade hasn't been too great. I mean, you can even look through, obviously, Ten Hag socially completely inept on the spectrum, most likely, which isn't a problem, but that's probably what it was. Ralph Rangnick was actually a really excellent communicator, close, kind of similar to Amorim in regards to being quite just honest in an open dialogue. And then you have Ollie, again, not great and not like a leader. Doesn't feel like the leader, an excellent kind of communicator / leader, but serious. All these kind of like being able to wear all these hats simultaneously or one after the other. Jose Mourinho was kind of on his kind of the start of his kind of farewell tour. You almost felt that at United. You could feel that it was kind of the essence, the magic, kind of what made Mourinho wasn't even there when he turned up. Lou Van Gaal, international. Do you know what I mean? So you could go through all these managers, and yeah, it's just very refreshing to have somebody that kind of communicates kind of what you're communicating in your own brain, right? About the team, about the players, about how kind of you should go about entering a club like Manchester United and stamping your authority in regards to the playing style or the playing ideas. So it's just refreshing, really is. So let's kind of like, anyway, aside from that, I'm just going to go quickly over Bruno's kind of positioning in the last Ten Hag game, which is an away game also against West Ham, and the Ipswich game, which you can probably already see there. And then, yeah, is Xerxes a 9 or a 10? I mean, it's interesting. We're going to just play around with the formation. Well, not the formation, but play around with a few of the players in them 10 spaces. And we'll see kind of what probably suits Xerxes best. And yeah, I really feel Rashford's kind of days are numbered. They were numbered before, even in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. But especially now, I just can't see where it fits for him. I really can't. So yeah, let's just quickly get into some of the things. So yeah, it's not even all the things here, but he started just with a few injury updates. Leach is going to be available, which is good. I feel like he could probably thrive quite well in that left centre back role. Actually, you can't even see that, right? Can you? Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, Harry's not ready. It did seem that he kind of, which he's going to, but he felt like he does feel like he sees that Harry Maguire still has something to offer for the club. I do feel that. And he does he's kind of like him, like when he talks about Maguire, he talked about him in like warmth. And I think maybe that's partly because he knows how much kind of he had been ridiculed by the fan base previously and by the media. And Harry Maguire kind of has taken himself from a joke to kind of being just a solid Premier League defender with his flaws and some strengths-ish, but just kind of a solid defender now. He isn't at this like comedic level, or that's where he was before, I think, his injury, etc. And then he kind of just flicked through about Lenny Euro, but there was in the main, it was pleasurable just to listen to him talk about and just his style of talking, right? As a United fan, it's the kind of the openness and the style of the conversation that kind of and again, it was a conversation. It felt like more so than just this bullet pointed scenario. But yeah, the interesting parts of the press conference for me, Bruno Fernandes was kind of talking a little bit of sense. He seemed a bit more. He looked like, and not to read into body language too much, but he looked like someone that knows that class is in session, you know? He knows that there's no messing about anymore. He looked like a kid that messes about that's kind of like, right, now things are just real, yeah? It seemed like that. And it's interesting that managers can kind of cast a shadow on players. Managers can kind of bring out the best or the worst parts of players, whether that's their character or their abilities or their... Do you know what I mean? So managers have that ability, and I feel like Ten Hag and Ollie just gave the reins so much to Bruno Fernandes that if you are someone that is a bit of a purist of football and you have that kind of like purist ideology in certain aspects, or you just value the technical foundations of the game or doing things properly, you'd fall out of love with Bruno, because a lot of times we couldn't do things properly as a team because of when the ball was going through him so much, because he didn't want to do things properly and more kind of traditionally like set for like traditionally set as a number 10 for the team. So I feel like seeing Bruno's possession and numbers going up, still creating or putting a few little nice long balls over the top to get his key passes up, I don't think that's a coincidence. I feel like, and as we'll see in a little bit, Bruno in these kind of playing in one of these 2-10s, he was dropping back a lot further than he would traditionally, and we'll get into the reasons for that in a second. But yeah, the most interesting parts are really in regards to Rashford, and I feel like basically he was talking about Rashford as to, well, if we start quickly with him talking about the lack of a reliable goal scorer that he spoke about here. He said, I think there's a concern in that, but we have to improve as a team. We controlled the ball in the second half, but we were not dangerous. 100%. We had like 70% possession in the second half, and we basically killed off the game to a certain extent, apart from a few little hiccups. And that's exactly what we did, which is a really good sign, especially with a team that this squad hasn't been built for possession, and there was definitely players that were on the bench that are more suited to a possession-based game. So to see that we could control the ball away, a hard, difficult place to go, as we'll see across the whole season, but we weren't dangerous. I feel like Amorim put the team exactly where it needed to be within like one game, personally. Like, I don't think there was much that he laid that out, and he said that he said that also they focused on the build-up more, right? So you focus more on the build-up throughout the week. So maybe the lack of kind of like emphasis on the forward side of things maybe played a factor, but the main factor we all know is the lack of quality in those areas, or the players that played, their lack of certain skills that are needed in this system to function and to work and to actually mount any type of challenges to any trophies, right? And he says Rasmus and Josh will score goals. Ahmed has to be better near the goal. Yes, kind of. And Bruno has to score more goals, right? So he is just putting it across all these players. I think that he's right. We have to be better as a team, right? And what does being better as a team equate to? It equates to having two players Let's minimize this. It equates to 2 players in these positions, right? Okay, a few things, right? Playing Ugarte, and let's just switch this around for now, just so people can... This is what most people think will probably end up being the scenario. Ugarte, Maino, and Bruno Ahmad. Right? Personally, I think that Bruno and Maino should change, but in this scenario, you have Ugarte and Maino with the energy to be able to sustain instead of Eriksen and Casemiro, right? So that completely, this block, this square is just massively important. I was listening to Statman Dave talk about how it basically switches into this kind of 4-2-4 when we have the ball, which is kind of really interesting, right? It kind of gets into this scenario. So I feel like scoring goals doesn't come from this player, right? Always thinking about the goals coming from this striker and the fact that we need a striker, and if you put another player in this position, things will change. I really don't think that, and I feel like the main scenario is this thing. That's what needs to be as well balanced as possible, and also offer as much kind of threat to be able to transition with the ball through the central areas. So obviously we can horseshoe as much as we want around these players as we do, but when we're trying to knock it in, we need players that are comfortable to come and show out wide, and we need players that are comfortable to slip into the half spaces, to pick up the balls off Mazraoui into here, or to pick up the balls off Martinez. When we see Mazraoui, obviously this was Ahmad in the Ipswich game, but when we see Mazraoui getting the ball into Anthony, what's the ball? Always, there's a player straight up his arse. The ball is drop off. It can obviously be Ahmad, it can come in and be Maino, but you need these 4 to be really technically secure, really interchangeable. And personally, I feel like if we drop Bruno in and put Maino in these spaces, I think that you can then start unlocking whatever there is to unlock in Rasmus Højlund, which I know isn't a lot. But I do feel like Ahmad and Maino can really start dropping into these half spaces, and then we can really fashion some real nice slots, like slide through balls into Højlund, real basically like offer threat in these central areas to be able to play the balls in behind, not just the diagonals, but these nice slipped balls in. And that doesn't just mean Højlund. Obviously, if you're playing Ahmad and Maino here, the ball's in more of the right. Oh my god, you can tell I'm not. Oh no, fuck it. Right. Yeah, okay, forget that square. So say if Mazraoui has a ball in this kind of like right half spacey inside the channel, right? Højlund comes across, whatever these boys are doing, but this kind of like other 10 is obviously just making that up, right? Then Ugarte is going, and then he's stepping in, and then it makes that kind of like 4-2-2-2 again. This now is enough of a unit of players, of good enough players to be able to unleash. Now, I understand that you want probably pace here, which Maino can't offer. If that was Ahmed in behind, doing it like this, obviously just for this exact case, then you can actually play through these central areas properly, and then you will start seeing chances being created by actual balls on the ground being played in behind, and I feel like that will offer way more threat. So if we just go back to kind of what I feel like should be the team, this is what I think should be the team against BODO GLIMT anyway, and then moving forward you'll switch a few things around. But I think Anthony should really get a chance in this right wing back position. You need Ahmad to be playing further forward, and I really think that he can do a good job there. I think he has the intensity. I think he's got the technical prowess, and he's got this ball. So when he receives a ball off Masvari here, he's got that pass, that first time pass, all day, every day. He really does. I think Malassi has obviously been on the bench. Will he give him a start, maybe, and bring him off after half time? Give him an hour, or give him 1/2. So I think that would be pretty good. He might play Shaw, I think, instead. Now, just going back to Bruno's positioning. So yeah, I have just the two heat. I know heat maps aren't exactly like, but they're visually good enough for me anyway. I feel like there's a lot worse like statistic things that you can use, and it's just visually simple. They're both away games, right? So there's no thing there in regards to being a home or away game in terms of where we should be positioned. Bruno Fernandes in a 4, like he's playing ultimately in a 10 still. There's just another 10 with him, right? If you're looking at it on paper. But I feel like you see here that the majority of his work was kind of done in the opposition half, which you'd say, well, that's where we want Bruno to be, in the opposition half. But if you think about really where Bruno's actually effective, you think about him scoring goals and assists, but really, where's his best play from? It's actually from these areas. Isn't it? Again, like this Ipswich game, most of Bruno's good play is he's dropping into these pockets, kind of on the halfway line, and he's trying to find balls over the top, or he'll just like lay off, and basically most of his work is done kind of in this quarterback role. But without him being the quarterback, right? That's what he does. He'll just ghost in so he's not marked because he's not good under pressure. And then he's playing from these kind of scenarios. So I feel like playing him in that deeper role really makes sense. Look how all over the shop he is there. Like a heat map, just splodges everywhere. See how here it's like all within this band. All within this kind of like, if you're doing it if the pitch in quarters, right? It's that second quarter that he's kind of operating in. So yeah, I just think it'd be so good to see Ruben play. You can play the same players, or like as in like you can like play some of the same players, but let's see them in different positions. It'd be so interesting to see if, Bruno playing deeper. Maino then being given the chance of playing that 10 with Ahmad. Oh my God! I just think this 4 will work. I really do. I think that is the 4. I think Rance also said about that being his 4. I think he's definitely saying Bruno Nagate, and I think I'm not sure. I think he's I should hope he's probably saying Ahmad and Maino, right? Yeah, and then just another few things to go about. Is Xerxes better suited for the 9 or the 10? If we have a look, what are we looking at? Yeah. So, if we're saying that this is the kind of this 4, this blue box is like massively important, and these are probably the chosen ones in these positions. You can definitely switch Bruno out for Cass. You can put Bruno in here, drop Maino in. There's options, right? But we're pretty much set on. So we're set on this. Do you know what I mean? Like that, Casemiro being kind of like. But we're set on these 5 basically are going to be rotating in these positions. We would hope, right? So we're thinking, what's going to happen with Garnacho and Xerxes? Now, Xerxes, like, we're going to go over first. You'd say, right, is it possible for Xerxes to play here? Now, if Xerxes plays here, there's a knock-on effect, right? If Xerxes plays up front in the 9, which he's more than capable of doing, but then having Ahmad and Maino here in the 10s is going to probably be a bit tricky, especially away from home, right? Because if Xerxes is playing here, then you need to have the pace come in here. You can play Ahmad, But then if Xerxes playing, then you got Garnacho playing. If Xerxes playing up top, then you got Amad and Garnacho. You got pace in behind. When the ball's over on this right hand side, Garnacho can be here. Amad can come through, and we're kind of in this continuation of getting to this 4-2-2-2 scenario. So you need pace in and around Xerxes if he's going to be playing that lone number 9 position. On the other hand, if you're then dropping Xerxes into here, then Højlund is probably it is the only option. And then, that's probably then going to be a more kind of like sustainable scenario. So in this scenario, you've got probably our three best technicians in our lovely blue square. With then this guy just being this bulldozer outlet for all this running. Malacia or loads of pace, technically secure. So you got this blue box is basically crapping out the ball and that's what we need. As we're moving the ball in this crab shape, it's going into this magic blue square, and he's getting shit out. Whether that's a slide rule ball pass for Højlund, a clip over the top for Malacia, lovely interchange themselves with a breakout, 1-2s, etc. to any type of chance creation. And once we kind of solidify who our magic blue box is, I feel like we'll be in a lot better position. And there is a possibility that Højlund can look like, or basically Højlund can get some goals. That's basically the possibility. I feel like Ruben was right in his words in regards to Rasmus and Josh will score more goals. I think they will. And then just lastly, in terms of for the Rashford, he's right. Our position isn't best for him versus Ipswich. There isn't one that is best for him or right for him. His best position is the 9. Like, that position's not best for him. Well, mate, if that's not best for him, then what in God's name is? Are we saying, okay, let's try it. We can figure it. I mean, it's not hard. If the number 9's not the position for Rashford, right, then the only other scenario that it can be is that we'll see this, right? Which kill me, right? But the idea being, this is the outlet, isn't it? This is the outlet. We saw Garnacho do it, or whichever way around you want to go. But instead of Rashford being here with his back to goal, or like trying to do anything and occupying forwards, it'll be in this position. 100%, it'll be in this position, or on the right, and it'll be about you then being more within the lines of the box, because a lot of times now Rashford's he was previously operating in these such wide areas that Rashford, this modern day Rashford in this scenario is not a threat on that goal. Do you know what I mean? When he's out here, so if he's operating in this kind of other number 10, which doesn't really sit great with anyone, I don't think, then he can operate more within this actual inside channel, right? And actually operate in there and never have to be seen out here. And then as the ball is being played round, if Mazraoui steps out, Højlund comes across, then Rashford's there, and then basically he's that second striker. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it. We're just, the pressure's on the players fully. It's all on the players, which is great, and this is where we want to be. We want it to be all on the players. We want to see rotation in the BODO GLIMT game. We want to see rotation of players that actually played in Ipswich, but into different positions. See how Martinez works in this 3, whether this kind of like down tick in his quality and performance and his kind of aggressiveness, maybe this suits Alessandro's aggressiveness more, and he can actually, the way that Amorim wants his defenders to go and press like high onto the number 10 when the ball's in the opposition half. The way he wanted Johnny Evans to do that, Martinez can do that in abundance, right? Martinez wants to do that. And I think that his height probably isn't going to be too much of an issue in the back three. So, yeah, I feel like pressure on the players, managers of the boy. It's so refreshing and just feels good to listen to him talking. That just shows how deprived we've been as a fan base. And yeah, onwards and upwards to BODO GLIMT. Let's see rotation. Let's see the filtration process of the hierarchy of players within this new structure. There's going to be a settling process of who's who. I think it's quite obvious, but it's interesting to kind of like see it. See the cogs kind of working, and it's refreshing to know that when we see things on the pitch, this manager, this structure above him, his backroom staff, they will react, and that's all we want, isn't it?